Hello everyone, today we're going to cover the installation of Ubuntu 18 desktop Linux on Oracle VirtualBox. I have already created other videos that describe how to download Ubuntu desktop Linux and also how to download Oracle VirtualBox. I will put the links to those videos in the description below. Okay, to get started, you start Oracle VirtualBox, then you just click on New to continue. At this point, you want to give your virtual machine, or VM for short, a name. I am simply going to call it Ubuntu 18 Desktop Linux. You can choose where you want to install your virtual machine. I'm going to leave the option as default, which will put it in my home directory on my Windows 10 account. The next step is to choose the type and the version. Because I've typed in Ubuntu in the name, it's automatically detected the type as Linux and the version is Ubuntu 64-bit, so I'm just going to leave that as default and continue. Next, you can allocate the amount of memory from your host machine that you wish to use on your virtual machine. My host machine is a laptop with 12 GB of RAM, so I'm going to allocate 4 GB of that to my virtual machine as follows. Finally, on this screen, you can choose the hard disk. I'm going to choose to create a new virtual hard disk, which is the default option, and for the benefits of this video, it is probably the easiest option to do, and I'm just going to click on create to create the virtual hard disk. The next screen is going to give you an option where you want to put your virtual hard disk. I'm just going to leave the default option for now. Then I'm going to go to the file size of the virtual hard disk. I'm going to allocate 40 gig to my virtual hard disk, which is a portion of the total amount of space available on my host machine. Next, you want to select the hard disk file type, but for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to select the default option, which is VDI, or VirtualBox Disk Image. Finally, on this screen, you can choose the storage of the physical hard disk, whether you dynamically allocate the space or you choose fixed size. Dynamically allocating the space means the virtual hard disk will initially be very small once it's created, and the more space you use within your virtual machine, the more space will be allocated towards the virtual hard disk, and it'll start increasing in size as you go on. That speeds up the creation of the virtual machine, but there's a big disadvantage of that, which is, say for example, on your host machine you have 25 gig available and you allocate 40 gig to your virtual hard disk. Should you use up that 25 gig, the virtual machine's not going to know that, and it's still going to think there's more space available than there is, and that could result in corrupting your virtual machine. So within the Oracle VirtualBox environment, I personally choose fixed size. If you do work in IT and you do use virtualization technology in your workplace, such as VMware, a lot of organizations use dynamic allocation or thin provisioning, but further talks about that is out of scope for this video. So once I've selected fixed size, I'm going to click on create to continue, and it's now going to start creating the virtual hard disk. Okay, I'm now going to pause the video while it's creating the virtual hard disk, and I'll resume the video once it's finished. So the virtual hard disk has now been created, and the virtual machine is now ready for us to install Ubuntu 18 Desktop Linux. So what you want to do is highlight the new virtual machine, then click on Start. Okay, so you'll be presented with Select Startup Disk. So what I'm going to do here is to select the Ubuntu 18 ISO image. Then click on Start. Then the installer program will start very shortly. At the top of the screen, you'll see a message in relation to Auto Capture Keyboard. I won't cover that in any depth in this video, but if you have any questions, please feel free to post them in the comments, and I'll reply to you in the comments section. So I'm just going to close that for now. And the same again for this message in relation to mouse points integration. So I'm just going to close that message. And if you have any questions, just please post them in the comments below, and I'll answer the questions in the comments below. So after a couple of minutes, the installation program will start. And you'll be presented with a few options, for language, and also whether you want to try Ubuntu or install Ubuntu. So what try Ubuntu means, you basically try Ubuntu without installing it on your machine. This is useful if you want to try Ubuntu on a physical laptop or a physical PC without actually installing it, which means you can keep your existing Windows installation. But for the benefits of this video, because I'm installing it on a virtual machine, I'm just going to select Install Ubuntu to continue. Right, at this point, we're going to select the keyboard layout. So, as I'm based in the UK, I'm going to select English UK. And once I've done that, I'm going to click on Continue. The next screen presents options for updates and other software. So the default option is normal installation, which will provide you with a web browser, utilities, office software, games, and media players. Or you can choose to install minimal, which basically will just give you a web browser, basic utilities, and not much else. Further down, you can choose to download updates while installing Ubuntu, which I recommend you do. And finally, you can install third-party software for graphics and Wi-Fi hardware and additional media formats, which I recommend you do, especially if you're installing directly onto a laptop or a PC. So it will download the drivers and install them for you without you having to worry about setting that up later. And I'm also going to keep it as default normal installation. So once that's done, I'm going to click on Continue. On the next screen, it's basically not detected any operating systems on this virtual machine, so it's not giving me an option to install Ubuntu alongside it. The option it's presented me with is to erase the disk and install Ubuntu, so I will select that. And there's also further options in relation to encrypting your installation, using Logical Volume Manager or LVM for short, or additional options. For the sake of this video, I will leave it as a default option and click on Install Now to continue. Finally, we are being asked to confirm if we want to go ahead with the changes. So the installer is going to carry out the partitioning automatically, so we don't have to worry about that. So I'm just going to click on Continue. Okay, the next screen is going to ask where you are, what time zone you're in. As I'm based in London in the UK, I'm just going to leave it as London and click on Continue. Now we enter our name. So I'm going to put in my name. I'm going to leave the computer name as the default it's set there. I'm going to leave my username as Amit. Now I'm going to put in a password. Okay, you can choose whether you want to log in automatically or require a password to log in. I'm just going to leave it as default and click on Continue. And now the installation program is copying the files across. So at this point, I'm going to pause recording, and I will continue the recording once we finish, once the files have been installed. So the installation is now complete. So I'm going to click on Restart now. At this point, it's going to ask you to remove the installation medium, then press enter. So I'm just going to double check to see if the medium is still present. So I'll go to devices, optical drives, and the disk is no longer present. So I'm simply going to click on enter to continue. And again, I'll close this message, and this one too. And just wait for the Ubuntu Desktop 18 to start up again. So once it's started up, I'm going to log back in. And there you have it. Ubuntu Desktop 18 is now installed. If you've got to the end of this video, thank you very much. And if you've liked what you've seen, please click on like. Also, please subscribe to the channel should you wish to view more videos from myself. And if you want to be notified when I upload further videos, please click the notification bell. Thank you very much for your time.